The way scoring works on the SHSAT is they score the ELA section and the math section separately, then add it together. So each section is worth up to 400 points, making the highest score you can get on the SHSAT an 800. When each section is scored, each one is going to be scored based on a normal curve. So it gets a little tricky, so let's look at an example.
Here we have the old scoring table. So, for example, if you had 10 out of the 50 questions right, that's 20%, and that would scale to a score of 129. Okay, something that's worth noting is that the difference between, for example, 1 and 2 is not the same as the difference between getting 15 and 16 right. So if you go from one correct answer to two correct answers, that increases your score by 14 points. Whereas here, from going from 15 to 16, still one more question correct, only increases your score by 6 points. And then you'll see, like, as we get towards the middle, they start to increase by about 4 points. So in the middle area, each correct answer increases by 4 points. But then that changes again as we get out of the middle. So as we go to here, we see that from 40 to 41 is an increase of 5 points. From 45 to 60 is an increase of 10 points. And then from 47 to 48, that's 11 points. And then it gets really drastic. So the point that I want to make is that if you increase your score here at the high end for one of the tests, you're going to increase your overall score significantly. So let's see how that plays out. So these are 2017 cutoff scores for a few of the schools. And let's look at an example. Let's say overall you got a 68%. So let's say for ELA you got 68%, and for math you got 68%. So we're going to get 246 for both sections. 246 and 246. So then when we add that up, that's a score of 492. So it would have made it to Brooklyn Tech. In this case, wouldn't have made Staten Island Tech or Stuyvesant. Okay, but let's say you still get a 68% overall, but on one of the sections you got 50% correct, and on the other section you got 86% correct. So did really well on one, not so good on the other, but overall the average is 68%. Well, if we look at this, we see that a 50 corresponds to 210. And 86 is 290. So when we add these up, we see we got a 500. So the same overall score, but the scaled score increased by 8 points. Still, in this case, didn't change. We still didn't make it to Staten Island Tech or Stuyvesant. But if we look at a more drastic one, we'll see that it would make a difference. But let's say we're aiming for a higher score. Okay, it's more noticeable when we look at greater scores. So instead of 68%, let's just say overall is 70%. So again, we'll look at 70% in both sections and see what that gives us. So 70 and 70, that would be 250 and 250. Altogether, that's 500. So the same score we got here when we had the 68%. Let's look at a more skewed one. So in this case, we get a 50 in one section and a 90 in the other section. For the 50, that would be 210. But then for 90%, that's 308. So altogether, it's 518. So that would have made it into Staten Island Tech for 2017, getting a 50 in one section, but a 90 in the other. Now, of course, you don't have to get a 50, right? You can improve this also, and then improving that would increase your chances into getting into a more selective school, such as Stuyvesant.